Welcome to your first class on Photoshop. Here you're going to be learning the basics of Photoshop. We're going to take you from beginner to intermediate to advanced level Photoshop editing. We're going to learn to work with images, work with flyers, and work with any kind of image on Photoshop. I'm going to start with an introduction. Of course, Photoshop is a pixel application. What does that mean? It means that Photoshop works with pixels are small boxes that represent one color in an image, right? Small boxes. So let me just give you an example. If I'm to open an image, let's say I have this image and I use the zoom tool to zoom into it. As you begin to zoom in, you start seeing small boxes, right? These small boxes you see in this image are called pixels. So Photoshop creates images using small boxes of specific colors. Now each box has specific colors. The next box beside it is a little bit different from the other one. Each box here has different colors, right? So when Photoshop brings this together, it forms a full image. And so when you begin to zoom out, you start seeing an image and all of that. So that's how Photoshop works. Because of this pixel technology, it can create high quality images more than many other applications out there. In this course, you are going to be learning how to use Photoshop to make your designs and to edit images. But whether you're a beginner, you're an intermediate, or an advanced level Photoshop user, this is a tutorial you would love to be part of. Let's get right into it. Alright, today we'll be looking at the interface of the Photoshop application. We'll go through the tools and a little bit of what they do and all of those things. So the target is that by the end of this particular class, you should be able to understand the application, where to find what and all of that. So let's get started. Personally, I like to divide Photoshop into 5 different areas. Now, that is the menu bar, where you find all your menus. You have file, you have edit, image, layer, type, select, filter, 3D, view, window, help. That is where you find major functions. Then there is also the properties bar. That is where you edit things. As in, the properties bar is a dynamic bar, right? It changes. What is on the properties bar changes depending on what on the tool you are working on, right? So that brings me to the toolbar. So there is a toolbar on this side, right? This is the toolbar. So this toolbar is where you have all your tools and all of that. We're going to come to that in a second. So you observe that as I click on different tools, the properties bar up here will change, right? So like this, it keeps on changing. So that is what it is like. Then there is also the I don't know if that's what it's called, but I like to call it the Windows area or panel area, because on this side you have all the panels, all your panels and all of that, or windows. For instance, if you click on window here, you're going to see all these are different windows, and you observe that layer is ticked here, right? So here you have your layers. Properties is here and adjustment is here. If you come here and check for properties, you're going to see it ticked here. If I click on, see, adjustment is not ticked. So but if I click adjustment here and come back to Windows, adjustment is going to be clicked. It's going to be ticked. Then there is this last area that I told you that is this place, right? That's why I like to call it 5. This area, when we create a new document, as we're going to see in our next class, you're going to see the canvas, right? That's where you'll be working, right? Where you'll be doing your stuff and seeing what you are doing. Next, let's get right into the tools, having an overview of the tools. Now, the first one you have here is the move tool. This is the tool or the shortcut. You can get to it by clicking on this tool or using the shortcut V. Now, every tool has a shortcut. So when you hover over it, you will see there is a bracket, an alphabet written in bracket or in parentheses. That is the shortcut for it. So by hitting the V button on your keyboard, the V key on your keyboard, you're going to go to the move tool. It's used for moving a selection or a layer, right? Then the second one we have there is, let me just say this. Now, when you get to Photoshop has many tools and variations of each tool. Now, these are the tools, but each tool has their own variations. So when you see a tool that has a small arrow beneath it, it tells you that there's something else inside it. For instance, now this is the move tool. There is another tool here called the artboard tool. It's still kind of a move tool, but it's more specific it moves the artboard, right? So when you hit this, you begin to move artboard and all of those things and all. But I'm just going to talk about these tools as an overview, right? I won't go right in depth into showing all the tools one by one because they do almost the same thing, just a bit more specific. So the second tool is a rectangular marquee tool. That's to make a selection of a shape. Now the overview you are seeing here that shows you a picture of what it does, what it does. So you can click and drag over something to select it, to make a rectangular selection. The next one is the lasso tool. Okay, that's to make a freehand selection and all of that. If you click into it, you're going to see other tools like the polygonal lasso tool and magnetic lasso tool. All these things function differently and all of that, and for different use cases. We're going to get into all of that. Then there is also the magic wand tool, also a selection tool to select similar colored image areas, right? Then if you get into it, you're going to see quick selection tool and object selection tool, which we're going to look at in this course. Now this one is the crop tool. The first one is the crop tool, okay, but there is also perspective crop tool, slice select tool. All this we are going to look at. Of course, as the name implies, it's for cropping an image. Then this is free frame tool, right? And all of that creates placeholder frames for images. Is that okay? Then this also is an eyedropper to our eyedropper tool. So if you hover over it, you're going to see samples colors from an image. Is that okay? So you can use it to sample. We're going to use all of these tools in our work as we go on. Then there is the healing brush tool, right? The healing brush tool repairs imperfections using pixels from another part of the image. Okay, so you can repair an imperfection. For example, someone has a pimple, for instance. There is a part of their face that is normal. You can use the place that is okay as a reference to repair that place that has a blemish or a pimple. And there are other tools inside it, that like spot healing tool, and all these tools have their own work. This one is, for example, spot healing tool removes marks and blemishes and all of that. There is the patch tool, content aware move tool, red eye tool, which we are still going to come to in the course of this tutorial. There is the paint custom brush strokes, right? And all of that. We're going to come to that. This kind of a brush, the brush tool. There's the pencil tool, color replacement tool, mixer brush tool, and all of those things. Then there is the clone stamp tool. Clone stamp tool. This is used to paint. This paints with pixels from another part of the image. So it doesn't really paint with colors like the brush tool would do. It actually paints with pixels from another part of the image, right? So it's mainly for cloning. Like you want to clone someone, okay, clone something on this part of the image on another part of the image. You can do that with that. There is a pattern stamp tool also. Of course, we'll get into that, but it's more like working with patterns, unlike just taking something from one pattern putting on the other. Now this one is a history brush. It restores parts of an image to an earlier state. Is that okay? So let's say you're working on an image, you want to restore a part of that image, you can go do that. There is also art history brush tool. It paints stylized strokes with pixels from an earlier state of the image. All right, so then there is also this tool, background eraser tool. Erases the pixel of a sampled color, right? Erases the pixel and all of that. There is the eraser tool inside that also, that changes the pixel to the background color, right? Or makes them transparent and all of that. So you just want to, as simply put, you want to wipe something off, you use this particular tool. You want to wipe it off entirely and all of that. So there is a magic eraser tool too. This one, I think if you pick some colors, right? So you can pick a particular color and it will help you wipe that area. So it says erases similarly colored areas with a single click, right? Then there is this tool. That is the paint bucket, right? The paint bucket tool fills similarly colored contagious areas with the foreground color, right? So you choose the foreground color, which I'm going to show you how to do that, and all of that. You can fill it a particular place with another color. If you get into it, you're going to see gradient tool, for adding gradients, create gradual blend between colors. Gradient is a flow of color from one color to another. So this is the tool used to create that. Inside that, there is also the 3D material drop tool and all of that. This tool drops material loaded in the tool onto the target area of a 3D object. Don't bother about all of this. We're going to get into it in the course of this course. So at this point, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I would like you to do that already, because we have a lot in stock for you. So you will do that so that you can be notified whenever we drop a video. Next on the tools is the smudge tool. All right, used to soften or smudge colors in an image. Right inside it is the blur tool. You want to make something a bit more blurry and all of that. This is a sharpen tool, the opposite of blur and all that. Then the next is the dodge tool, right? The dodge tool is used to lighten areas in an image, right? You can lighten some areas, make some areas brighter than it was. You don't want to add the brightness on every part of the image. You just want to do it on some parts of the image. You can use this to do that, as you can see in the preview. Right inside, you have the bond tool, which is the opposite of the dodge tool. You want to darken, right? You want to darken areas of the image and all of that. The sponge tool on its own is used to change the color saturation of an area of the image, right? You want to make the saturation lower or higher and all of that. With the sponge tool, you can do that. Saturation means the color, right? You want to make it more colorful or less colorful. That's what that means. Then this is the pen tool, a tool we are going to use a lot in this particular. You're going to use a lot in Photoshop and all of that. So it makes and changes parts or shapes with anchor points and handles. So you learn how to draw things out with the pen tool on Photoshop using the pen tool. These are all variations of the pen tool and all that. I'm going to show you how to use all of these when the time comes. And that is the type tool, right? The horizontal type tool. Of course, simply adds a horizontal text. There are other variations like the vertical one. There is the vertical type mask tool. There is the horizontal type mask tool. All these are for typing, but used for specific use cases and all that. In this case, it's for typing vertically, right? And all of that. So this is a selection tool, direct selection tool, right? It selects the individual points and segments of a part, right? And all that. Then there is the rectangle tool for drawing for drawing rectangles and all of that. Inside it, that is the rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, and all of that. Then there is custom shape and all of that, which you can draw shapes that are not anything. For example, a tree, animals, and all of those things. Then there is the rotate tool, right? The rotate view tool is to rotate the view of an image and all of that. And then there is also the hand tool. The hand tool is simply to drag, to move, like to pan over your image, or pans over different parts of an image, right? So there is also the zoom tool, of course, to zoom stuff, right? To bring it closer or take it further away from you. And then there is the edit bar, edit toolbar. This is used to edit this toolbar how you want it to appear. For instance, by clicking this, you can edit the toolbar the way you want it to appear and all that. Drag it around, bring this, or if you want it to be on top or something like that. However, I would want to leave mine as it is, and then press OK. Then there is also, then there, when we talked about thing that was paint bucket, we talked about foreground color and background color. Now this is the foreground color, the one on top. Like as you can see two color boxes here. This one on top is the foreground color, this one is the background color. So set it like this. Yeah, normally it should be black and white, okay, and all of those. Then that's basically it for the tools. And as you can see, as you keep on hovering over these things, they keep changing. So when the time comes, we're going to give more attention to these tools individually and teach you how to use them on the go. Alright guys, welcome to today's video. I'm going to be continuing with our where we left off. If you followed our last video on installation, you should be here right now. You should have your Photoshop open. We're going to continue with our tutorials. I'm not going to be assuming that you know anything in Photoshop. So I'm going to be assuming you are a whole newbie in the whole system. So I'm going to start from the intuitive to the non-intuitive. So I'm just going to go straight to it. I'm going to take everything step by step. So if you knew what I'm doing, you can skip to the next video when it comes out, or you can skip this and wait for the next video when it comes out. Or if it's already out, you can just click on the next button and go to the next one. Or you can just follow along and pick one or two things along the way. Let's get started. I'm going to be talking about how to create new Photoshop document. So I'm going to start with that. So first of all, go to File, click on New. Then this is the dialog box that will appear when you click on New. This is where you set up your Photoshop document, how you want it to be, the size, the resolution, the color mode, the background content, everything. But I'm going to go through this with you. Now, this tab is the recent tab. This is where you find the recent documents I've created earlier. The second one is the ones I have saved by myself. I'm going to show you how to do that. You can actually create a document and save that particular preset so that next time you come back, you can just click on it and select it. So you can see when I was working on a calendar table, I had to save the size so that I can always come back to it. This is a square. I always use a square because in these days you will always be making Instagram designs and all of those. So I save the square. Then there is photo. These are Photoshop presets. If you are making a photo, these are different photo sizes. For print, these are different print sizes: later, legal, tabloid. If you're into printing, you will know what all these sizes are. Okay, but this for you now, you just have to know that this is where you can find them. If the person you are designing for says, okay, I'm going to be printing this, you can come here and check. Tell him which size. He will tell you A4, A3. These are the more popular ones. A6, A5. For instance, A4 is 210 by 297 millimeter. Then half of it would be this. Okay, so 148 by 210 millimeter and all that. So the double of this would be A3. So just like that, you can pick anyone you want. For example, once I pick A3, everything here adjusts. You see the width adjusts, you see the height, everything and all that. I'm still going to come back to explain some of these things here. Then there is art and illustration, just different sizes. If you're making a web page with Photoshop, this is where you can pick the sizes. If you're a web designer or you want to be, you should take note of this. For making web pages, this is where you create it, and it will give you the resolution of different system sizes and all that. Then for mobile, maybe you are making a design for mobile. Let's say someone says that he wants to make this for this particular thing. Okay, they'll tell you the size of the screen they want to make it for and all that. You can pick it from here. Then for film and videos, YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that, this is where you can see that. If you observe, these ones are measured in pixels, but when you come to print, you notice that Photoshop uses millimeter instead of pixels. When you come to art and illustration, it goes back to pixels and all of that. So it just depends on the need. This one is in inches because photos are majorly measured in inches. That said, I can now come over here. Let me come back to recent. I can now come over here and start showing you what these things are. Now, what I want to show you is how to set a custom design size. So you can enter the size you want here and the width you want here, the height here. This is the unit you want to measure in. So if it is in inches, you do it here, and in millimeters, you do it here, and all of that, centimeters, pixels, and all of that, depending on the specifications you're giving for the design. Then this is the orientation: landscape and portrait. Any picture that is standing up is portrait. The one that is lying down is landscape. What I mean by that is, if the height is bigger than the width, then that is a portrait picture. On the other hand, if the width is bigger than the height, that's a landscape picture. So for the layman, if it is standing up, it's portrait. If it is lying down, it's landscape. Then this checkbox here is if you want Photoshop to create an artboard for you, okay, you can click this. If you don't click this, it's just going to create a simple Photoshop document with a background and you start working. But why I like to use artboards is that artboard lets me create multiple designs on the same Photoshop document. I'm going to show you when the time comes. But with an artboard, you can have different designs on the same Photoshop document, unlike what would be the case if you didn't use artboard. For now, I'm not going to bother you with all of this. Just leave everything the same. As time goes on, if we have need to touch these things, we're going to look at them in details and all that. But this is just resolution, color mode, and all of that. So just leave everything the same, set your size, and press OK. So in this case, I'm just going to create a square 200 by 200 millimeter, and I'm going to set it to be artboard. Now this is 200 by 200. It doesn't have any, it doesn't need to have anyone you set is the same thing, right? Okay, as you can see, it's not even clicking because it's 200 by 200. So you need, if this one was higher, that's when it can switch, right? For instance, if this is 210, right, and then it will switch to landscape. If I click on portrait, 200 will come up to this place, and the 210 will come down to the height. So look at this now, it keeps on switching. So but we are doing 200 by 200, so it doesn't really apply to this. After you have set up your artboard, you press create. Once you click on create, it's going to come up with your document like this, and then we can now start working here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to save a document. So we're going to save this now, and then I'll show you how to open it back again. So to save your document, you come to file and click on save as, right? Or you can do shift control S, right? You can just click this and then save your document. You can decide to save it to cloud. That means to save it to your Adobe cloud. You can see it says here cloud documents are saved automatically to Adobe's cloud as you work. For access whenever you are signed into Adobe to Photoshop in future releases, you'll be able to use them to collaborate with others and all of that. So with this now, you can actually work with people online. So in other words, someone can actually open your documents. They are saying that in other releases. So maybe it's already like that in 2023 now, or 24 version, but I'm using 2020. So as at this point, at the point of this particular software, it was not like that. So you can save this to cloud, but I don't want to save it to cloud storage. So I'm going to just click on save on your computer. So you press save on your computer, and then this one is to save it on your desktop, on your system, so that you can actually open it anytime you like. Pick up any place you want to save it, say desktop. So I'm not going to save it on desktop, so I'm just going to create a folder here that I'm going to call Photoshop tutorial. Okay, Photoshop full tutorial course, right? That's what we are doing. So I'm going to press, and then I'll enter into the folder. I can save it here. So I can say new file on my first document, right? You can save it here. Now in saving this is the format you use, PSD, right? This is the Photoshop format. The readable, this format is the format that is readable by Photoshop. So if you don't use this format, you might actually not be able to open it on Photoshop, or you might not be able to open an editable format. This is the Photoshop editable. There are many other formats that are editable, but this is the default one you would use for it. So for instance, you might be able to edit PSB. This is large document format. This is almost same. It's the same thing as PSD, but this is for large, very large files. So if you start designing, right, and your file starts getting so large, up to 500 MB, 1 gig, Photoshop will switch to this particular file size and all of that. So they created this for normal sizes. This is if your document is, tremendously large, they're going to switch to this, but just always save as this. I'm going to show you how to export. Assuming you want to be an image, you can save it as PNG or JPG and all of that, but we'll get to that shortly. So for now, select PSD, and then all these ones are other variations of the same, right? PDD, PSDT, and all of that. So you can do that. If you want to save as a copy, which means you want to have another new document, a new document apart from this one you are on. So you're going to save as a copy and all that, or just leave everything the same here and press save. Okay, it asks you for compatibility stuff. Then that your document is saved. That's why when you make a change on your system, on your document, let's say you you create a shape like this, and you come back to file. Come back to file, you see that Ctrl S is now active because you can now save your document with just Ctrl S. The next thing is I'm going to show you how to save your document and open it. I've shown you how to save your document. The next thing is now how to open it. So if I close this down, how do I open it again? Now, there are many ways to do that, or let me just show you two. If Photoshop is already open, you come to File, click on Open, right? Open here, and then my first document. If it doesn't bring you to this place, you can navigate to the right place where you saved it, click on it and press open, or just double click it and your document will be open. On the other hand, if Photoshop is closed, right? Photoshop is closed, you can just head over to where you saved it. So I saved mine on my desktop, Photoshop full course, open it and then double click on it here. This will automatically open Photoshop and open you straight to the file that you opened, that you clicked on. That is it. That is our file, the same file. See it here, my first document. Okay, that will be it for this particular video. If you've not yet followed this channel, I encourage you to do that to be able to see the next video when it comes out. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, welcome back to this video. Today we are going to be talking about basic navigations. That is zooming, panning, guides, rulers and stuff like that. We're just going to be going through it step by step so that you can understand every single thing about it. Alright, I'm going to start with zooming and panning because that is the most intuitive. Okay, I'm going to start with that to go to other ones that might be less intuitive. So to zoom, of course, is to bring something closer. So let me just create a new file, okay, to test this out. So let's say we have an A4 document and we create it, and then we can, to zoom, you can click on the zoom tool right here. Okay, click on the zoom tool. To zoom, you just click in and zoom it in, or hold alternate and zoom out, right, and keep on clicking to keep zooming out. Is that okay? Or you can actually click and drag like this. If yours is not working this way, then make sure that Scrubby zoom is checked. So you can click on Scrubby zoom. If I uncheck it, I won't be able to drag like that. This is how it's going to be happening. If I'm clicking and dragging, it's just going to be moving like this. But if I turn on Scrubby zoom, you can follow my hand in and out as I'm clicking and holding my mouse. I'm doing this. It's going in and out. Of course, I'm holding Alt. If I leave Alt, it will still happen the same way. So that is just how it works. So just ensure that Scrubby zoom is turned on your system. Okay, so you can see other options here. For example, you can easily zoom something, zoom your document to 100%. So you click on this, it comes 100%, say fit screen or fill screen. You get it now. So you can actually use any of these to do it. Well, when I'm saying hold Alt, right, is to be able to switch between plus. As you can see, the zoom icon now has plus on it. Once I hold alternate on Windows, it's going to turn to minus. I think that should be options on the Mac. Then with this, that you can do the same thing here by clicking this. Okay, so you can do that and switch to plus or minus. Plus is to, zoom in. Minus, of course, to zoom out. Then for panning, you click on the hand icon here. If it is not showing on your own, you can click and hold and select the hand icon, not the rotate view tool, the hand tool, right? And then select it and you can move. To pan means you just move your document around your screen like this. You're not zooming in, you're not zooming out. You're just moving it left, right, up and down. So you're just panning over it like this. So you can do that. The shortcut for it is H, right? So let's assume you're working with the zoom tool and you zoomed your document somewhere here, but you don't want to zoom out, but you actually want to move this way. Okay, you can come here, click the hand tool and drag it this way. Okay, but the fast way to do that, the shortcut to easily switch to the hand tool and out, is just to hold spacebar. So once I hold spacebar, it will switch to hand tool, I can just drag through, right, and drag up and down. So that way you don't have to zoom out first, right, maybe fit on screen, then come to, I don't know, come to, then use your hand to move it, use your zoom to zoom in again, bring hand to, all of that. So you can simply use your space bar, hold it down, you switch to hand tool, and all of that. So that is that for that. So it's as simple as it comes. That is how to use it. If you master this, it's going to help your workflow a whole lot. Next, we're going to be talking about rulers, right? Rulers are, first of all, the purpose of rulers, it helps you measure and align objects within your design space. Okay, that's offering you a reference point for size and positioning. Okay, it helps you align your objects within your design space and offers you a reference point for size and positioning. Now, what are rulers exactly? Rulers are what you're seeing on top of my on the borders of my, on the edges of my design space, right? Look at them here. So it helps you align your document. At least I know that this from 0 to this and all of that. So if I want to put a document, if I put to put an item here and I want it to be the same space here, I can easily look at the ruler here and see where I can place it and all of that. But before I go into it, I'm going to show you how to activate rulers. Okay, I'm going to show you two ways. One is the normal way, second one is kind of a shortcut, right? So you can just go to view, okay, and look for rulers here and just click on it. You see, it was activated, now it's deactivated. Now to bring it on again, you can go back there and do the same, or just press Ctrl R, Ctrl plus R, or Command plus R if you're on the Mac. To change the unit, right, you can see this is it has a unit from 0, 200, 400. If you want to change the unit of measurement on the ruler, you can right click on it and change it. Now it's working with pixels now, right? So between here and here is 200 pixels, between here and here is another 200, so from here to here is 400. Is that okay? So if you want to change it, just right click on the ruler itself and you'll be able to change it. If you want it to millimeter, you can change it. You see that it has switched to 0 to and all of that. Remember the size of A4, right? A4 is by width here is 210, right? As you can see it here, 210. So 210 by 297. Now look at it. If you come down here, you're going to see it. So it's like 297, just about that. So you see it. So you can actually switch to any measurement you want. Now I'm talking about guides. The purpose of guides, or guidelines as some people call it, is to provide precise visual reference, that is to ensure consistent positioning across your design. Okay, so you can use guides to guide yourself, because you are a designer. Sometimes when you're thinking about how to make your design look good, you are not really considering your alignment. So personally, when I started with design, I'll look at the way I always start my work is this. I always keep this in pixels, right? Okay, so something like this. So when the way I start my work is, once I start, I drag this out. Of course, I'm already showing you how to create your guidelines. You can drag from ruler, right? You can drag from here, and anywhere you leave it is going to be there. You can also drag from here, right? If you want to put it down, you can drag it to here, and also for this side. Now, what you just saw me do now is how I start all my works, right? That enables me to have a margin, because I see designers, when they design, their design is flowing through the margin. There is no defined margin, or the margin is too small and all of that. So to make sure that I don't exceed my margin, I always create this. Okay, I decide the margin I want to use, I make sure they are equal using my ruler. Okay, these are not equal, right? So if I want to make it equal, I go to the move tool to be able to move these guides. So now this is 0, this is 100 pixels, right? Let me say I want to leave it at 200 pixels. Okay, yeah, 200 pixels, and start from here again. That should be somewhere here, right? Yeah, here, 200 pixels. Then up here again, I can still do that. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, then up here I can still do that for here, 200 pixels, and 200 pixels. Now this is a very good stuff. This is something good you should really learn, a good habit you should learn. And when you're starting to design, it feels very boring to do, but I can tell you, if you master this in the long run, maybe after a year or two of your design, you might not actually need to be doing this. It will enter your head. Is that okay? So I want you to imbibe this now. Whenever you want to start a design, create guides. Even if when you see me doing mine, I might not really be creating it every time. Okay, but create your guides to guide you. Create your margin particularly. In fact, when I started doing this way when I advanced a little. Normally, I would even create one for the center of my document. Is that okay? To help me know where I'm working. Now, this is to structure my work. At least I'll be able to align things properly. So when you do something like this, you now know where the left and right, top left, and all of those things. I would encourage you to imbibe that habit. Okay, as you can see, these guides can be moved, they are movable. But if you don't want them to be movable, you can use Alt Control semicolon, right, to lock them down. This time around, I can't move them anymore. If you're on the Windows machine, Alt Control semicolon. Press that again, Alt Control semicolon. You can now move them again. See, the icon to move them is coming out. Okay. Then if you want to hide them or show them, right, you can just press Control semicolon without alternate. Control semicolon, and just like that. And you can hide and show them like that. So maybe you are working, you feel like you want to see your work without all these lines. You can just Control semicolon. All right. So that said, okay, let's talk about grids. Grids offer a structured framework essential for maintaining consistent spacing and alignment in complex designs. So if you're making a complex design, sometimes it becomes very difficult to maintain consistent spacing. If you don't space your work uniformly, it's going to look funny, even though your work is fine. Okay, so let me show you what grids are. So go to view and look for grids, right? Look for, okay, show, yeah, grids. Where are you? Yeah, grids or grid. So you click on it and it's going to come out this way. Now this enables you to know now these are small, there are big boxes, there are smaller boxes, and all of that. So it can help you know how you can space your document and all of that. You can also use control apostrophe to hide or show them. Let's talk about customizing grids. Let me say I have a design that is this way, right? I created a background, and the color of my background is not white, it is cyan. Okay, it is this kind of color. As you can see, it's becoming very difficult for me to see, my guides and all of that, right? These guys I drew, now I can see them out here, but inside the canvas I can't really see them. So how do you solve that? I'll teach you how to customize your grids, guides, and all of that. Go to edit and preferences, look for guides, grid, and slices. Now you can change the color of your guides here. So in this case, I want to affect my guides alone, so I can change the thickness, I mean the kind of line it uses, or the color. So you can change it to red. So you can just you can play with all of these to come up with something that you like. You can change the subdivision, you can change everything here. You can customize the color to be this color, okay, medium blue, and all of that. But I always like to leave my stuff as default, except I have to come and edit them. So you can control everything, the slices and all of that. Okay, so this is where you do it. You go to edit, preferences, guides, grids, and slices, and then you adjust things the way you want. However, I'm going to leave my one as they were, so I'm going to press cancel, right, and bring it back, and then delete this stuff. Okay, and of course I want to hide my grids too. I'm going to show you one more thing before we go. By the way, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and click the bell icon so that you can get notified when I release the next video. Okay, so next, how to work with multiple tabs. Okay, now if you once you create a new let me say you create a new Photoshop document. Let me see, this one is this size, and you notice on top here there's going to be two tabs. Okay, these two tabs. Now how do you use them? Of course you can, these are two separate documents. You can be working on two of them at the same time. In fact, you can actually drag this out, right, and keep it separately. Maybe on top you want to be looking at both of them at the same time. You can resize it to the way you want, right, and be working on it at the same time. And these tools can also be used for them. So let's say I want to zoom this one, I want to fit this one on screen. So I'm just going to press the zoom tool, come in here, fit on screen, right? It's going to fit to screen. So I'm actually working with this with the same toolbar and all of that, but with on different tabs. But if you want to put this back, just drag it and bring it here and leave it. It's going to be clicked back, right? So as well, if you want both of them to be showing side by side at the same time, you can come to window, arrange, and then use two up vertical. So you did it this way. So this one will be here, this one will be here. You can use the zoom tool. When you save it on screen now, it's going to feed this guy, going to bring this guy here, and then this one too fit on screen and all that. So it means you can be working on two things at the same time. Is that okay? You can use you can use pan here. I'm holding space bar to pan around here. If I click on this one, I can use pan. I can't pan this around because it's fitted to the screen, but if I zoom in or zoom out, I can now use, if I zoom, sorry, I should be on this plus. If I now zoom in, right, I can now switch and now move them around. I think that will be all for this class. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon to be notified when I release the next video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video. Alright guys, welcome to today's lesson. In this class, we're going to be learning the basics of layers and layer management. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to effectively use layers, create layers, delete layers, and use it for your work. If you have been into Photoshop at all, you will know that layers are a very important part of Photoshop editing. If you don't understand layers, you can do very little with Photoshop. And of course, layers are what you're seeing on this side of your screen. These are where your layers appear. This is the layers panel or layers window. So first of all, let's start with the definition. What are layers? Layers are like transparent sheets stacked on top of each other. Each layer can hold different elements of your design, allowing for non-destructive editing. So basically, layers are like placing a transparent sheet over another. This layer you're looking at now on your screen is actually transparent. That's why you can still see a blank screen even though there is a layer here, because it's transparent. And in Photoshop, whenever you see this check stuff, right, gray, white, gray box, white box, that means that the layer is transparent. So this is a transparent sheet, right, placed on another. So think of it like a nylon bag, a transparent nylon bag that you can write on top, or a nylon sheet, right? Place one on another and write on it. So with that, now if you write on it, and there is a white background, so if you write on it, it will be showing like as if you wrote it on the paper, whereas it was written on nylon sheet, right? So if you move the nylon sheet, the stuff, the thing you wrote will be moved also, and stuff like that, which means you can have up to 10 nylon sheets and be able to move your work smoothly. So with layers, you can be able to write something, right, or add something to your design non-destructively. Layers enable you to work on individual parts of an image without affecting others. This provides you with a lot of flexibility and control over your editing process. So how do you create layers? Now, Photoshop has many ways of creating layers, but I'm going to start with the basic one. To create a layer, go to layer on the menu bar, right? Then go to new and then layers, where you can use the shortcut Shift Control N if you're on the Windows, or Shift Command N if you're on the Mac. So you click on layers and you can now interact with this panel. You can give it a new name, but for now I'm just going to leave this as is and press OK. As you can see, we have a layer called layer 2. But notice there is no difference on your design because these are two transparent layers and we can add anything we want on top of it. So if we add a text to this one, that text we wrote will be here. But however, every other part of the sheet is still going to be transparent. Let me take, for instance, I put a polygon here. Right, you can see a polygon has been added to this, but it's still transparent. Only this place that we've added stuff on. See, we can still move it around. If you observe what's happening here, as I'm moving this, it is moving too here on the layer. But every other place that is showing boxes, gray and white boxes, are still transparent, which means you can put this on top of this and all of that. So that is non-destructive. You can also create a new layer by clicking on the plus icon down below. So when you click on this, a new layer will be created automatically for you. I'm going to undo that. Okay. Then to delete a layer, you can actually just drag a layer on top of the trash can icon here, right? To delete the layer, right? You can as well just select the layer and click on the trash can icon, and the layer is going to be deleted, right? So when you press OK, it's deleted. So I'm going to say Ctrl Z to bring that layer back. To make your work faster, you can as well press the delete key or the backspace key and your layer will be deleted. Some layer properties and adjustments that you must know. One of them is renaming your layer. Now to rename your layer, you double click on the name of the layer. Take note on the name of the layer, not on anywhere else. You must make sure you're on the name, double click it, and call it my new layer. Okay, my new layer. Then you can also change the opacity of the layer. Opacity like this, you don't want it to be so obvious. You can just drag this, click, and once this icon, your mouse icon changes to this, and begin to drag up and down to adjust the opacity. Let me add a polygon to this, okay, to this layer, so you can see the effect of what we are doing. So you can actually reduce the opacity of this to 0, bring it up a bit until it comes up to 100 again. Or you can as well use this, drag it like this and all that. So that's that. You can also adjust the blend modes here. There is normal, there is dissolve, there is darken. Now, what are blend modes? Just as the name implies, blend modes are ways is for you to define how your object is going to interact with other objects. Is it going to be showing as if it's a glass on top of it? Is it going to be making it glow? Just to define interaction between your elements, that layer, that particular layer, and other layers in your work, right? So the next I'm going to show you is adjustment layers. To create an adjustment layer, you can go to layer and new adjustment layer and then select the adjustment you want. Now, adjustment layers are basically layers that you add for adjustment. You can't add any other thing to it. The adjustment layers, they are used to adjust the image. For example, now you can add a brightness and contrast layer, you can add a levels layer, curve layer, exposure layer. So with that layer, you can interact, you can adjust how the image looks, right? So in this case, if you add a brightness and contrast layer here and press OK, you see we can now drag. This is what we can do to it. You can drag, increase the contrast or the brightness. As you can see, is affecting this particular layer. Or you can come over to layer here, adjustment, and then find anyone you want and add it. Next, I'm going to talk to you about layer groups and masks. Now, to create a group, just select multiple layers. Okay, now I have 2 layers, an adjustment layer and my new layer. You can select the 2 layers by holding down Control and clicking on the next layer. So when you hold down Control and click on different layers, you'll be selecting all of them. Once you're done selecting them, right click and choose group from layer, group from layers. And then it's going to be, you're going to ask you to give it a name. If you like, and change the name, or you can just press OK, right? You've grouped from layers. Another way to do that, will simply be, I just press Ctrl Z to undo that. It will simply be to press Ctrl G on the keyboard, right? Or Command G if you're on the Mac. So to group your layers, it's as simple as that. Another way to do that also is to drag your selected items. Once you're done selecting, drag it down to the group icon here, and then it's going to be grouped. So like I told you guys, Photoshop has a million ways to get stuff done, right? So the next I'm going to talk about before we round off for this particular lesson is going to be layer mask. To create a layer mask, right? First, what is a layer mask? Now think of a layer mask as an invisible mask over the layer that you can now hide and show some places based on that mask. So think of it just like an invisible mask put over the layer, right? You can now make some part of the mask visible and make some other parts invisible. Let me come again. Layer masks are invisible masks placed on the layer that you are working on. So you can actually decide to make some part visible and make some part invisible. So if you make some part of the mask visible, it means that part of the layer will not be showing anymore because the mask will cover it. So just like your face, if you cover your face, the places you open are the places that will be visible, right? But in this case, every part of the whole mask is invisible, right? So you now decide on the part you want to make visible or not to make visible. To create a layer mask, select the layer you want and then click on the add layer mask button down here. As simple as that. You have created a layer mask. So with this now, as you can see, there is no difference. That's why I told you it's actually transparent. It's a mask, but it's transparent. So we put this mask on this layer, but we can't see anything. However, if you now want to interact with it, I'm just going to show you so you understand what we're talking about, but we're going to use it more in the coming lessons. So this is our mask. I've selected our mask. I'm going to select the brush tool and then come here and choose any brush I like. And then, okay, let me just pick any other basic brush here. Okay, so once I start painting this brush over this my mask, you will observe, okay, let's just do it. See, it's wiping off some places and showing me the other place. In other words, I'm saying reveal the mask. I'm revealing the mask right here. So once I reveal the mask here, it kind of covers this part of the image that I'm painting over because I'm revealing the mask here. So that is basically how layer masks work. So if I now switch this now, I can say I don't want to reveal this. I want to hide all the mask again. How do I do that? I can come here and switch this right to white. Then I'll start painting again. So I'm hiding the mask. If you look at this place now, the white areas are the parts of the mask that are showing. The part of the image that are showing. The black spot here is the part where the mask is covering. So now we are removing the mask, right? And leaving the areas that we want only. So that is how layer masks work. Alright, that brings us to the end of this lesson. If you've not subscribed to this page until now, I will encourage you to click the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon to get notified when I release the next video. And if I've released the next video already, then click on the next button to watch the video. Thank you for following this tutorial, and until next time, have a great time learning Photoshop. Alright guys, welcome to today's lesson on our Photoshop full course tutorial. Today I'll be covering everything about selection tools, everything you need to know. Of course, if you're editing, you have to select some areas of your design and interact with them particularly. So how do you get to do those? So I'm going to take you through the selection tools that we have on Photoshop, and I will show you how to use them and how to get around working with each and every one of them. We're going to start with the marquee tool. So the marquee tool is this tool over here, right? So there are two kinds of marquee tool, the rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool. So I'm going to start with rectangular marquee tool. The rectangular marquee tool is used to select a rectangular selection, to make a rectangular selection. So you can just click and drag over a particular place and you make that selection, right? So of course you can get to it by clicking on the toolbar here, yeah. So you can just click and drag over any place to make a selection that you want. The next one will be the elliptical marquee tool. So you click and hold on the marquee tool and then select elliptical marquee tool. And then you can begin to drag over it. Okay, and then you have your ellipse selection. And you can observe that there are two other select marquee tools that are here. I even though I said there are two kinds of marquee tool, that's because these are the two main ones. These two are used to select single rows and single columns, right? So the way Photoshop explains it is for selecting a single row that is just 1 pixel high and all of that. So look at it, makes a horizontal selection that's a single pixel high. So something like, using this we can just make something like this, and that's a simple one. Okay, so that is how it works. And the same thing with a single column marquee tool like this. So that's basically what the marquee tools are used for. Then there is the lasso tools, and the lasso tool is this tool right here. I'm going to deselect this. So let's work with the lasso tool. So the lasso tool makes a freehand selection. You can use the lasso tool by clicking and dragging all around wherever you want to make your selection. Okay, in this case the hair. So we can just drag around and make our selection. Then there is the polygonal lasso tool right here. Of course, the shortcut for lasso tool is L, right? So there is the polygonal lasso tool that you can use to select polygons. So let's say if you want to select this side like this, right? You can do that with you see selecting polygons and all of that. Because you use it by clicking on different spots of your design, and it's going to select. The magnetic lasso tool, it follows the edges of contrast automatically. It follows the edges of contrast automatically. That is, if you come to magnetic lasso tool and you want to use the lasso tool to select this guy, so you can just click here and it automatically follow the edges of this contrast, the contrast between this white shirt and the background. So it's automatically picking that, okay, that's where the contrast is and all of that. So you keep on doing that. When you are okay, you can just double click and it's going to round it up. Then after the lasso tool, there is now the magic wand tool and the quick selection tool that is down here. So you have the quick selection tool. It makes a selection by finding and following the edges of an image. So just almost like the magnetic lasso tool, this finds and follows the edges. So let me select this, but you don't have to follow the edges for it to do it. In this case, you just have to keep on clicking and dragging, just clicking over it. It will automatically pick the colors, right? The edges like that, and pick it up and all of that. It works with colors and contrast to get things done. So this is kind of easier to do. You remove some parts. So as time goes on, I'm going to show you how to use all these tools more in depth. You can adjust a whole lot of things up here to make it look the way you want. But until we get there, let's continue. Then there is the magic wand tool, still under this one, the magic wand tool, right? I'm going to deselect this magic wand tool. Let's see what it says. It selects similar colored image area. So if I click on this, it's going to pick that particular color I clicked on. It's going to pick it on all parts of the image and try to select them, right? So if I click here, it's going to do the same for this and all of that. So one more thing I'm going to show you before we bring this lesson to a close would be the refine edge or select and mask. if you observe in all this selection tool, once you select something, these two guys, this button will come out here. Select and mask is for refining your selection, right? You can use it to make your selection look better, right? So you want to tell it how smooth it should be, whether it should feather out, whether it should, just talk to it, increase the contrast of the edges of your selection and all of that. Let me assume I use this guy to select my user, my subject, right? Like this. Okay. Let me just leave it this way. Right. Okay, you can click on select and mask, and this guy will come out. This panel will come out here. In this window, you can adjust a lot of things. Now, this opacity here is for you can reduce this to see the background. So, but when you finish cropping your image, this is what it's going to look like if you decide to export the selection. So now you can see some errors, you can see some mistakes that we made. So on this area, you can actually adjust all of these things. You can increase the radius, you can increase the radius, you can make it smoother, and all of that. You can see the impact it's making on the design and on the selection, all of that. You can make it further out, so you can see the whole thing is feathering, right? So you can increase the contrast and shift the edges. Maybe if they are too close to your subject, increase it. Of course, I'm going to reduce this guy and all of that. So I just wanted to show you what this is. Okay, as time goes on, we're going to look at them more in depth with hands-on examples for us to look at. So for now, I'm going to just press cancel and leave it the way it is. All right, that brings us to the end of today's lesson. If at this point you've not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to subscribe and click on the bell icon to get notified when I post the next video. And if I already posted the next video, just click on the next button to go to it. Thank you very much for following today's tutorial, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Alright guys, welcome to today's video on the Photoshop full course tutorial. I am excited to be taking you on this journey, and today we are going to be looking at basic photo editing. In today's lesson, we're going to be covering the basics of photo editing, cropping, resizing, adjusting brightness and contrast, basic color correction, and all of that. So stay with me in this tutorial. First of all, we're going to start with cropping. So to crop your image, you select the crop tool from here or press C, right? The crop tool is used to trim and expand the edges of your image. So you can just click and drag in, right? You want to make this image, you want to remove some parts maybe you feel are unnecessary for your image. You crop it. After you adjust by clicking and dragging on the edges, you press enter or click the tick icon up here. So you commit the current crop operation. So you press OK to commit it. Then to resize your image, you can go to image. You can go to image and go to image size, and then adjust the width and the height. You can adjust the width and the height as you deem fit. As you do that, please ensure that the constraint proportion is turned on. How do you do that? This particular icon here, this is used to constrain the aspect ratio so that you don't increase the width and destroy your image aspect ratio. So always make sure this is ticked. So mine is already on already. That is why when I begin to adjust the width, the height is also adjusting with it together, right? So I don't have to make sure that it maintains. So Photoshop automatically increases the width in proportion with the height. So make sure this is in most cases this should already be turned on your own. So If I click on it, I'll remove it. If I click on it, it is on now. With this will show you that it is on, right? This line that you're showing that is connected, they are connected together. Okay, so once you are done with your image, you are done increasing the size of your image, you can press OK. Photoshop will run the stuff and it will run the operation and increase or reduce the size of your image depending on what you did, right? So talking about adjusting brightness and contrast, now you with the image selected, with the layer of the image you want to apply it on selected, you go to image, right, adjustment, and get to brightness and contrast, right? You click on it and then you can adjust it by dragging this up or down. So you can actually increase the brightness by dragging it up, and then the contrast too, so until the image looks like what you want, right? So you can turn off the preview or turn it on by toggling this particular checkbox and all. So I think I'm okay with what my image looks like. It's a bit brightened up now. I'm just going to press OK, right? So I'm going to show you now the same way you apply this brightness and contrast. You can do the same for every other adjustment, but for the course of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you one more, which is going to be the curve adjustment. So go to image adjustment and then the curve adjustment. Now the curve adjustment is used to interact with the shadow, the mid-tone, and the highlight. So this is the shadow, this is the mid-tone, this is the highlight. So you can just click on here to increase, just adjust the flow bit from your shadow to your mid-tone to your highlight until it looks good to you. And then you can just press OK once it looks okay to you. Okay, once it's good to you, of course you can preview before and after, and then you press OK. Okay, let me go into basic color corrections. Now for basic color correction, I'm just going to show you two of our adjustments. So number one is going to be levels, number two is going to be curves. So the first one, levels, come to adjustment and select levels here, and then under levels we have in color correction, generally we have the shadow, we have the mid-tone, and we have the highlight. Now these are represented by these nodes, right? This is the shadow node, this is the mid-tone, and this is the highlight. So if you begin to drag this up, you see the shadows are increasing. If you begin to drag this down, you see the highlights are increasing. Now the shadows, of course, are the shaded part of your image, the dark part of your image. The mid-tone, the highlights are the bright part, the lit part of your image. So all these lit areas, the white areas, and all of that, they are the highlights, right? Then the mid-tone is somewhere in between the both of them, right? So that is that. So with this now, you've adjusted this image, you've corrected the color of this image. So if some places that were darker before, so before this place seemed too dark, almost completely pitch black. So instead of doing that, we added a little bit of lightness to it, right? So that is how this works. You can preview before and after, or at least matching with the sharpness of this highlight here. So we've not gotten into advanced color correction. When we get into it, you will see how these things work and how they interact with each other. So stay with me on this journey, right? So after you're done with setting up your work, your levels, you press OK. And then the next one we're going to look at is going to be curves, right? It is still the same thing we want to do, right? But a different way of achieving the same thing. So go to images, adjustments, and then you go to curves. Of course, Control M or Command M if you're on the Mac. Then you can see below here is the shadow, here is the mid-tone, and here is the highlight. So you can actually just try to create two nodes here on the graph and then try to adjust them as you see fit, right? once they are okay the way you want, you can just click okay. But for now, look at what we have. Okay, with this, so we can bring this down. There's something else you can do with this is the why this curves is very powerful is that you can actually tell, you can use a something called the color picker to tell Photoshop what exactly to do to your design. For example, these are our color pickers. So you can, this is for shadows, to sample an image to set black point, and then you can sample the image to set the gray point, and then to set the white point. So shadow, mid-tone, and highlight. So black, gray, and white. So if I think that a particular part of this image is dark enough, so I can select this shadow, and let me say I click on here now, it will be used as a dark point of this image. Then on this part, I'll select the mid-tone, I'll pick somewhere here, around here, or maybe here, anywhere you want to pick as your gray point. And then the light point, I can pick a bright point of my image somewhere here, and you see what we have achieved just by clicking buttons from this to this. So if that is okay by you, you can just press okay, and that will be it. So this Photoshop creates easy ways of correcting our image, of color correcting our image. So this image, we have moved it from what it was to this, and all of that. So that will bring us to the end of this tutorial. In this lesson, we have learned how to crop our image, resize it, apply brightness and contrast, and even color correct our image using levels and curves. Thank you very much for following this tutorial. And if at this point you've not liked this video or subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon to get notified when next I release a video. And if I've already released the next video on this playlist, click on the next button to just watch it immediately. For now, thank you very much for following this tutorial, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Alright guys, welcome to this Photoshop tutorial on brushes and essential tools. I'm going to be doing introduction to brushes and tools in Photoshop. In this lesson, we will cover the basics of using the brush tool, the eraser, the clone stamp, the healing brush tools, and how to customize brushes. This is very important, how to customize brushes. By the end, you will have a solid understanding of these tools and how to leverage on them in your project. Let's get started with it. So what is the brush tool? Now the brush tool is used for painting on your canvas. The brush tool is used for painting on your canvas. It allows you to add color, texture, and various effects to your image. Now the brush tool is this tool here, of course. So it paints custom brush strokes. So this is for painting on your canvas. It's found right here, or you can use B to get to it. Just press the B key and you go to it. Now, how do you use the brush tool? You can select the brush tool, of course, and then you can start painting over. Now, of course, click and drag over to paint. Now, you can notice that it's painting, but it's kind of faint, right? So, what's the issue? I'm going to show you. The reason is because of the color here. So, the brush paints with the foreground color. Now the foreground color, as I've shown you before, is this color in front here. The one behind is called the background color. So what color do you want to paint? Let's say we want to paint blue. You can select blue and begin to drag over. Now you can see we are painting over our canvas with a brush tool. Right? Now to adjust the brush size, you can open the brush preset picker here and begin to increase or decrease the size of your brush. So if you increase it, the brush size is increasing. See what we have. So if you reduce it, it's reducing. So you can actually make it look like a pen. And then you can also adjust the hardness or softness. So what is the hardness, softness? Of course, how soft the edge is You can see this is a soft round brush. That's why the edges are blurry, kind of. That's what you're using here. But if it is hard, it will feel more like a pen. So let me say I increase the hardness to this, and this is still the same size, right? This one and this one are still the same size, but this is soft, this is hard, right? So you can increase the softness or hardness by adjusting these two stuff here. Now, there's a shortcut to do this because you will do this a lot, so you actually need a shortcut for it. Now, the left bracket key is used to reduce the size. Notice as I'll start pressing it, observe what will happen with the size up here. So I'll start pressing it, it's reducing the size, right? Reducing the size, and if I start pressing the right one, it starts increasing it, right? Reducing, increasing, and all of that. So if I want to reduce the hardness, I'll have to hold shift, right, and click the left one to reduce it. Shift to increase it, I'll hold shift and start pressing the right one to start increasing it. Now there are the brush tool has different things that you can set up. One of them is the opacity. For example, this opacity, you can make this brush to be less opaque, right? So you can begin to paint. It's now faint, right? You can increase it and make it becomes more visible. Increase it a little, something like this. Then it becomes like this, right? Or can actually keep it at 100%. So you can adjust all of these to create an effect you want. You can make the flow 100% to make it flow properly, right? And all of that. As you can see, it looks like these ones are harder than these ones. They are more closely related. They are flowing together more than these other ones we've been painting all the while. So as time goes on, we're going to touch all of this stuff, but that is how it works, right? I'm going to press Ctrl Z to remove a couple of these. If not, let's just remove all of them. And I'm going to show you the eraser tool. And the eraser tool is this tool down here. You can get to it by pressing E or clicking on the tool icon here. And it changes the pixel to the background color or makes them transparent, right? That's what it does. Now you observe that the eraser tool still has the same thing as the brush because all of them are brush tools, so to say. So you can still reduce it by pressing the left braces or increase it by pressing the right braces, right? So you can begin to drag over it to erase. Now there is nothing to erase because this is a transparent layer. So but let's say we have a polygon here and then we select our eraser tool and begin to, of course you cannot work on it because it's not directly editable. So let me say, don't bother about what I'm doing, I'm just rasterizing the layer. If I begin to paint on this now, to begin to wipe it away completely, right? So if I now hold shift and press the left braces, it's going to reduce the hardness of my eraser brush. So I can now wipe like this. So you can just adjust these things to get to what you want. If I want it to wipe it but not wipe it completely, I can reduce the opacity here and then begin to wipe. You see, it's wiping some parts, but it's not wiping everything off. Except I now come over it and wipe it over and over and over and over and all of that. So that is just your call. How do you want it to look and all of that? Then taking us to the next tool will be the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool, you can get to the clone stamp by clicking on the icon on the toolbar or pressing S on your keyboard. It paints with pixel from another part of the image. So for this, I'm going to open up a new image. I just opened up this image. And with the clone stamp tool, how do you use it? Remember I said it paints over an order. Let me say it paints with pixels from another part of the image. So you have to tell it what pixel to use to paint over. So I want to paint over this down area, this bottom area of the image. But it doesn't paint with colors. It paints with pixels from another image. And to simplify it, it just clones the image. So let me say to do that, you have to hold alternate, right? Alt and then click on the part of the image you want to use as your source, as your reference point. I'm going to click here and then I'll start dragging it over here. If I begin to drag it, it begins to clone this image down here. I'm clicking and dragging over this. It's cloning this image right here. So this is a very useful tool if you are doing photo manipulation, right? So that is it. It's used to, you can click, you can use alt, hold alt, select it, um another image. I mean, hold alt, select a point on the image that you want to use as your reference point, and then begin to click and drag over on the other parts of the image, right? Then we'll go over to the healing brush tool. The healing brush tool. The healing brush tool, you can get to it by clicking on the healing brush tool in the in the tool panel, or just pressing J on your keyboard. Now, there are several variants of this tool, different variants. There is the spot healing tool and the patch tool and content aware move tool, red eye tool, and all of that. We're going to start with the healing brush tool. Similar to the clone tool, you can hold alt, right? But first of all, let's see what it does. It repairs imperfections using pixels from other parts of the image. So you see, this one actually does more with repairing imperfections, right? So let me say this lady has a spot on this place and we want to remove it. So instead of trying to do whatever, stressing yourself, you can just use the healing brush tool, right? Pick a point on this image by holding alt, just like you did in the clone stamp tool. Hold alt and click on this place, and then leave alt or options on the mark, and then click over this part. Now you can observe it intelligently removed the spot and replaced it with the pixel we picked from here, and no one would ever know that anything was there in the first place. So this is very powerful, right? So you can use it in your work to get stuff done. So it uses pixels from one part of the image to heal another part of the image, right? So there is also the spot healing tool, right? Let's say there's a spot here. You just click this one. You really don't, you can use a reference point, but let's see what it does. It removes marks and blemishes. So all you just need to do is to drag over it. As simple as that, it will remove it. So it will check, okay, what is supposed to be here, assuming this spot was not here. So with this, you can remove every kind of spot and all of that, but you must be careful to use it where it should be used, so that it doesn't remove details from the image, right? So that is that. Before I go over to other stuff, let me show you the patch tool. And the patch tool replaces a selected area using a pattern or pixel from another part of the image, right? It replaces a selected area using a pattern from the other part of the image. So it's just you can drag, look at how it works. You can drag this around, okay, and then begin to move this like this. So you are saying, I want to replace whatever that was in my selection with this. So you can as well put you can as well put the eye here, you can put the mouth here, you can do anything you want and all of that. So it's just from photo manipulation. It typically replaces what used to be here with any other part of the image, okay, and it intelligently blends it into your work. Finally, I'm going to show you how to customize your brush. So first of all, we need to open the brush settings panel. So go to window, right? Go to window and go to brush settings. So you can use F5 on your keyboard to do that. Now, all these are deactivated. The reason is we are not in the brush tool. So click on the brush tool or press B on your keyboard to get to it. Now, customize the brush and what the brush shape and what it looks like. You can adjust the brush tips, the brush tip shape. You can include diameter. You can adjust the diameter, angle, and roundness. Okay, so with this now, you can look at the size. You can adjust the size here, the hardness, and then the spacing. Now, this will even help you understand what brushes are. Brushes, when you begin to drag with a brush, you start seeing, let me just go back a little and show you. Start seeing something like this. But these are actually different circles, right? Some of them are blurry circles depending on what you set for the hardness, but they are just one spot joined together. So with this spacing now, you space it out so that they can appear like this, right? No longer together, and they don't look like a line. So that's what spacing does for you. Then there are many other things to adjust here on your brush. So things like the shape that dynamics, you can the jitter, right? How scattered they are. Jitter is like making it smaller, some bigger, randomizing the look of each brush um shape that you are drawing. So look at this. Some are bigger, some are smaller, and like that. So you can actually um set the minimum diameter and all of that. Even as it's doing the geota, you can do the test the geota angle and all of that. Roundness geota. So roundness geota is to some so the all the brushes will no longer be circle in the same way. Some will be more rounded than the others. So and all of that. When you begin to drag this around, you see what you are creating a totally different kind of brush. So this is how you set up your brush to look like what you want. So you can test the scattering here. This is how what we are doing looks like, right? So let me say I increase the size. I come back here and increase the size of my brush, right? Let me come up a bit, yeah. And then I come back to scatter. Now look at this first. Look at what it looks like. And then when I scatter it, I can increase the count. I can increase the count here, and then the scatter, right? You can see the preview here. Increase the count, make the brush more many as you start dragging, and then the geota count, right? So if you begin to use this now, you see what you are creating. So what I'm trying to show you is that you can create anything you want with your brush, and even add a texture and all of that. And if you start dragging, it kind of has a thicker, feel. That's the texture you are creating. You can change the texture to be grass, water, anything, or even custom textures, as the case may be. So you can take your time and go through all of these and try to, set up some of these things and play around with it and see what you can come up with. I can tell you there's a lot you can actually come up with this. I think one time I even used this to create kind of a grass for the work I was doing at that time and colored it, and it actually look like a grass properly, right? So you can actually create a whole lot. Maybe one of these days I might even do a tutorial on some of these things what you can do with your brushes. So this is how to do this. Then when you're done creating, if you're happy with what you created, maybe you like the way it's looking now, you can save this preset so that you can use it later. So you don't have to redo this all over again. So you can save this and call it spaced round brush, anything you like, and then press OK. Now if you now come here and you can see space round brush down here, right, underneath the whole brush preset thing. After you've gone through all the ones that are here already, the presets, you can see the ones you've created, your own custom brushes down here. So that is how you can create custom brushes. So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. In this lesson, we have explored the basics of brush tool, the eraser, the clone stamp tool, the healing brush tool, and we've learned how to customize brushes. Now, mastering these tools will actually enhance your ability to create and edit images with precision and creativity. So I encourage you to go on and practice this. Rewatch this video if you need to see how to do the brush preset thing again and again, and it's going to help you a lot. Thank you very much for following this tutorial. If you have not liked or subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Even click the bell icon to get notified when I post the next video. And if I've already posted the next video on this playlist, just click the next button to watch it immediately. Thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video. Happy designing. Alright guys, welcome to this Photoshop tutorial. Today we'll be focusing on text creation and styling In this lesson, we will cover how to add and format text and explore text layer properties and apply various text effects and layers to enhance your design. You see, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to use the text tool confidently and creatively in your projects. Let's dive right in. First of all, we'll start with adding text. The text tool allows you to, this is the text tool right here, right? It allows you to edit text within your Photoshop document. Text layers are automatically created when you use the text tool, enabling flexible editing. And so to add text onto your document, all you have to do is to select the text tool here, or press T on your keyboard, or click on the text tool icon to select your text tool. Then to create a text, you can do that in two ways. First of all, Photoshop has something called the point text, and secondly has the paragraph text. You're going to start with the point text. You click anywhere on the canvas to start typing. This creates a text layer for a single line text. Look at this layer area now. Once I click, it's going to create a layer automatically for me. Like right here, type mastering design, just one line. No matter how far you go, I've seen people assume that maybe if you're typing here and you get here, it's going to break to the next line. Photoshop doesn't do that. This is one line text. If you click any point on the canvas, you're going to create one line text. Then for the paragraph text, you can click and drag to create a text box. This constrains your text within the box, making it ideal for longer passages or text. So let's say you just click and drag. Okay, that's how you create a text. See, you can expand this way and it will align. So it's more like creating a paragraph text. Some people call it text box, but I like to call it paragraph text, right? You can now click on the move tool and move each of the texts created. So let's say we want to create maybe a box item or a grid item. So you can put them this way. So this is the title and this is the body of the item. You observe that as soon as I created this text, layers were created for these ones separately. Next, we are going to learn how to format the text. And this is our title and this is the body. As you can see, both of them look the same. So let's say we want to style it. How do we go about it? First of all, look at where you find your styling here. But if you can't find this icon here or this panel here, you can come to Window and then Character. Right? Click on Character. As you can see, character is ticked. That's why it's showing here. I can now minimize it and show it at will. The same goes for paragraph, but we'll come to that shortly. In the text panel, you're going to find a lot of things here. You're going to find how to change the font. You're going to find how to change the formatting of the font, be regular or bold or tiny or whatever. Then you can change the font size here. Instead of just saying this way, let me apply them to our text. So first thing, click on the text you created and then highlight it by pressing Ctrl A or Command A if you're on the Mac. You can come here and begin to format it. Now currently we're using Poppins font, or we can decide to change that. So let me say I want to choose, let's say Nexa, right? So I can choose Nexa. As you can see, it has changed already. You can come here and change how you want it to look. Now this ones as our font, this particular formatting here is font specific. There are some fonts you will get and they will just have regular or anything here. Some will have a lot of it here, a lot of variations here. You can choose heavy because it's our title. This looks small, so we need to increase the size a little bit. So let's say I make it 12. This looks good already. This next one has to do with line height. So, or it's called leading rather. That is the space between the text. So let's say we come to this paragraph text, right? And want to adjust the space between these lines. So we can actually come here and reduce it to 10. As you can see, it just reduced. Then there is also the kerning, that is the space between two characters. Okay, so to adjust the kerning, place your cursor between two characters anywhere. Now you can increase the space between them just by increasing this. It's becoming wider. That is how you do that, but I don't need that for my text right now. So I'm just going to leave it at 0. The next is tracking. Tracking has to do with the space between a selected character. So for this particular one, you can increase the space between two characters. So you just place the cursor here and it's going to increase the space between them. But for tracking, you have to select in a group of characters and then begin to increase this. Notice that you can enter in a value here like 100, right, and press enter, or you can just click and drag over all this. Once your icon changes to this, right, two arrows pointing left and right, you can easily click and drag and increase the value. So this is 320, but I still want to bring it down to, let's say, just 0. But for our text, right, our title text, I want to reduce it to 60. To 60 kind of gives it more definition. And then this is the stretch, or the vertical scaling. You want to scale the font vertically. You do it from here. I'm on mastering design, so I can decide to increase it. This is scaling it vertically alone. I don't think anybody will want to do this to their text at any time. But if you need that, that's what it does. Same as this horizontal scale. If you do this, you're going to be scaling your text horizontally. I'm still going to press Ctrl Z on those to revert to normal. This here is the baseline shift. Every text has a baseline. This is where the characters are sitting, kind of the floor for the characters. If you want to lift the baseline, you can easily, let's say for instance, I want to select this DE, and as you can see, as soon as I selected it, there is a baseline showing here. There's a line showing. It's not on the line, it's just telling you that this is the baseline of this design, this text rather. So you can increase it here. If you are beginning to increase this, you won't observe that DE will start going up. So let's see if I begin to increase this. Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening. As you can see, the line is no longer down, it's now here, that line underneath it. So I'm going to, just like the others, I'm going to still revert this to normal. Then brings us to coloring. If you select your text and you want to color it, this is where you do that. So for the body of our text, we're going to come here. I'm going to change it to something dark gray, not full black anymore, right? That is to project. That's going to help us project our title better, to create a contrast between the title and the body of the text. If you want to change it for specific letters or alphabets or words, you can easily select here and change it here too. Notice that this applies to every other style too. So assuming I want to change the font for this particular word, I can just change it here and it's going to apply. The next is now the font variations that Photoshop gives you. Now remember I told you there is font variation here, but these ones come with the fonts that you installed. So let's say you downloaded the regular version and the regular version, and you didn't download the bold version. The only one that will be showing here will be the regular version and not the bold version. As you can see for this one, this font I have here is only the regular version that is here, right? That is this font I use for this red color. It's only the regular version, it's not here. So but if you now want to apply more variations to it, these are the ones that Photoshop provided for you. So in this case, in the case of this text here, right, I just have the regular version. If I want it to be bolder, I can just press bold here. You see, it just got a little bit bolder, right? Or you can, if I want to make it italicized, I didn't download the italicized part of the font, or maybe it's not even there. So I just have to click on this Fox Italics, right? And then it's going to be italicized for me. Then the same thing happens for, or works for every other thing here. So this is uppercase. If you want to make your text uppercase, you can click on this. This is lowercase and this is uppercase now. So I'm going to select all of these because this is the body of the text. I'm going to remove from uppercase. I'm going to click this, as everything is going to come down to normal, right? Normal case. The next will be the small caps. If I select all of this text and click on small caps, you observe that it made everything capital letter, quite alright. But the first letter is bigger than every other letter here. After every full stop, you observe that the first letter is bigger than every other letter. So that is how this works. That is, it just creates kind of small caps for everything and then big caps for the first letter of the sentence. Or then this is for superscript, right? So I'm going to undo this. This is for superscript. This is for subscript. So if let's say I want to do 2 raised to power of 7, I can just write 27, increase the size here, and then select 7 and write and click on superscript, and it becomes raised to power 7. And then this is for subscript and all that. If you want to normalize it, just click on it again and you disable it. Okay, then if you want to underline your text, I'm going to delete this now. I'm just going to click on, select the layer and press delete to delete it. Then select this with the text tool, of course. Select this, Control A, and then click on underline to underline your title, right? Or you can as well cancel it. You don't have to click the text tool and highlight. So in order to apply your text, you can just select the layer here and begin to apply it. Why I like to select it sometimes is because it gives me more leverage to do what I want to do. So if you want to apply a style to design alone, you will have to go to the text tool and then select design alone to be able to do that. But if you're applying it to the whole font, to the whole text, you don't have to do that. That is how it works. Then for this also, you can just click and cancel it out. You see, it just cancels it out automatically for you. Strike through. So you now select, just remove all of these. I just want to leave it this way. It just looks kind of looks better like this. Okay, let's talk about alignment, right? So to align your text, I'm not talking about aligning the entire document, just to align your text. Now, this is a paragraph text. So if you come to the paragraph area, paragraph panel, you're going to see there are different alignments. So there is left align, there is center align. So if you click on it, it's going to align your text to the center. This is going to align it to the right. This is going to justify it, right? It's going to justify um last left. Okay, it's going to justify it, but the last will now be on the left, and this is going to, the last will be on the center in this case. So the last line will be on the center, but it's going to still be justified. This is still justified, right? But it's going to now be on the right side. The last line will be on the right side of it. So let's click on it and see. Yeah, so this is justify also, but it justifies everything including the last line. If you click on this, it kind of justifies everything. So but now you can see that, but for now, for this particular case, let us use this particular one, justify last left, our design. Okay, so that's a paragraph. So this is indent left margin. So if you begin to increase this, you observe that your text is moving towards, you are adding a margin in the left side of your text. So look at this now. You see, we're having more space here than we have here. Let's say we enter a number, let's say 6.5. You see, we are adding a margin to the left of it. Now, if you want to add it to the first line alone, so let's bring this down to 0. Okay, you're going to use this. You come here, and then it's called indent first line. You just add in the number 6, and you're going to see it will indent the first line for you. So let's say I want to make it 10 to indent the first line, and then this one the same thing it does, but it does it to the right. Indent the same thing that this first one does, but it does it to the right. So indent right margin. So you can now increase this. Let's say you add 10 or maybe 15, right, and press enter. You're going to see there is now a space here on the left side, on the right side of the text. So this next one now is to add space before the paragraph. So here now, this is where the paragraph starts. First of all, let me reverse this to 0. So this is where the paragraph starts. So I'm going to add this. Maybe say add 30, space of 30. Okay, this is not going to show because there is no, this is just one paragraph here. So if I now enter a paragraph here, see there is a big space here. This big space is because this is 30. So if I now reduce this to 10, you see the space is reducing. So the space between paragraphs, so this paragraph 1, this is paragraph 2. And so this is how you space it. Then if you want to add a space after the paragraph, you can also use this one. Okay, so that is how this works. If you want to hyphenate your work, okay, so that the way it is set now, every word continues on the next line. There is no hyphenation. That is a little dash on the end of each line. Maybe if the word did not complete. So you can do this, you can do that with this. So that if there is a word, okay, just look at this now. Facilities, yeah. It couldn't complete here, so it added a hyphen and then continue the next line. If you don't want to add that, you can remove it here. So next, we are going to talk about text layer property. Now, this is your layers. As soon as you started creating your text, it started creating layers for you. Each text layer in Photoshop has adjustable properties that can enhance the text appearance and interact with other layers. These properties are similar to basic layers but include text specific options. For example, we're going to start with renaming the layer. Of course, you can rename your layer like we've seen, and just double click on the name of the layer to rename it. And the next is going to be to convert text to shape, right? You can right click on the text layer and choose to convert to shape. This turns your text into a vector shape, allowing for further customization with pen tool and direct manipulation of anchor points. So for an example now, let me just write a new text. Let's say you're creating a logo, right? Now I'm going to do, if you are new to Photoshop, I'm going to do something that is a bit advanced. So just bear with me. I want to use to explain what this is. So press A. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this so it stop affecting my text. Okay, bring all this down to 0. Press enter. Okay, I'm going to increase the size of my letter. Okay, this is A, but I don't want the A to just look. Okay, let me just use ABC, right? So but I want this to look a bit more different than the regular ABC. Maybe I'm creating a conference, an ABC conference flyer, and I don't want you to look like the regular ABC. What can I do? I can right click and convert to shape, right? So look at it here, convert to shape on the text layer. Click on it. Once this is now a shape, this is no longer a text. You can no longer edit it by pressing text tool and clicking on it. You can't. But what you can do is that you can hold control while on the text tool, hold control and click on one of the nodes, and you can begin to adjust the nodes. Holding down control, you can select each node. If you want to select two nodes, you can hold control and hold shift, and you have two nodes selected. With this, I can drag this, right? I will now hold down control alone. After I've held shift to be able to select the second node, I will now remove my hand from shift with control held down. I'll start dragging this, right? As you can see, you can increase this like this. So let's say also I want to touch this area. I don't like the way it's looking. Just I want to make it more unique. I can hold control again, click on this node, and then hold shift and click on other nodes I want to adjust with it, right? Like this. Or rather, let me leave this to I'm still holding down shift. Now I want to adjust it. Now I'm going to leave shift. I'll now drag this down. Okay. No, that's not okay. So I'm going to click on this again with shift. Be able to select the second node there and then bring it down. Then press V. You see, this has changed the shape of this A. It has given it a unique feel, a complete different, but everybody still knows it's ABC you wrote, right? Now, there are many things you can do with this, but I'll just give you an example. Next, you can convert your text layers to smart objects. You can right click on the text layer and choose the convert to smart object. This makes the text non-destructive, allowing you to apply filters and effects while preserving editability. Okay, so let's say you have a text. Observe that in this case we can no longer edit this, okay, like change it. But let's say I have another one here, X, Y, and Z. Okay, X, Y, and Z, and I right click and convert it to smart object here. Convert to smart object. Okay, now observe that there is a small icon here showing that this is now a smart object thumbnail. Also a smart object rather. Then look at here too. You observe that on this layer too, that is what I'm showing here. So this is now a vector, right? It's no longer is a shape rather, no longer a text. So we are still on this one. Now you can't edit this now by clicking text to here. You can't. You just create a new text if you click on it with text tool. So press delete to delete that. But what can you do? If you double click on this thumbnail now, double click on it, Photoshop is going to open in a new place where you can still edit this thing, right? Which is to tell you it is still very much editable. But now on this your work, okay, you can now apply effects to it and not lose and you can now apply effects comfortably. Some effects, there are some effects that you cannot apply to text that you can apply to smart objects. So you can now apply those effects to it. Let's say I want to edit this text, I can come here actually and just remove one. Maybe I delete Z and press Control S on this one. It's going to save into this one. So as you can see, we now have XY here, right? So that is how it works. The next I'm going to show you is warping text. With the text tool selected, you can click on the warp text icon in the option bar. From there, you can now choose the various styles like arc, bulge, flag, or wave, right? And then adjust the blend and distortion sliders. Now look at this. Let's say I have a text here. Okay, permit me. I'm going to delete this one, and this one too. So let's say I have a text written warp. Okay, so warp. I'm going to make it uppercase. Come to the paragraph options and remove this. Okay, that is cool. Then increase the size here so you can see what I'm doing properly. I'm going to make this bold, right? So with the text tool, click on the text tool and select the text. Control A, select the text. Now there is a warp icon, right? A warp functionality here. Click on it, then go to style, and then choose the one you want. So let's say you want the text to be like an arc, right? You can do it here, and it turns to an arc. You can begin to adjust the properties. So this is the bend. So you want it to bend, maybe it's too much, you want to reduce it. You can begin to reduce it like this, right? You can use the horizontal distortion to distort it horizontally, and then use the vertical distortion to distort it vertically as you want it to be, right? So you have to, yeah, so that is that. You can actually change it to vertical or horizontal. There are different stuff here. So maybe after now, take some time and experiment on all of this stuff and see what they look like. For instance, you have bulge, right? It's gonna bulge with these settings, it is bulging, but I'm gonna leave it at arc. Okay, so I'm pressing OK. That is how it works. So I'm going to show you something on text, effect, and styles. I'm going to introduce you to blending options. So right click on any text. So let's say we have this warp text here, and you right click on it, okay, and then go to blending options up here, right? Blending options. It's going to pop up. This box is going to come up, and you can apply different effects to this stuff. I'm just going to choose a couple of effects to show you how you can use this. You can now experiment with them, play around with them. Make sure to play around with them. That's how you're going to learn. If you have questions, you can drop it in the comment section, and I'm going to respond to you. But make sure you experiment with these things. Okay, so I'm going to add a gradient effect, okay, to this. So first of all, click on the gradient effect. Don't just click on this tick here. Make sure you click on the body. If you click on the tick, it's going to be applied, but it's going to apply the preset already, and you cannot adjust it, right? So let me assume I want to add text overlay, and I don't click here, and I click on the checkbox like this. Now, if you observe, the color changed a little bit, but it changed to the color that is already set there, and not the color I want. So until I click on the body, that's only when the properties of that particular style will open up. You can now change it. But let's come back to gradient. Now you can't notice any difference because the gradient that is set currently does not allow us to show difference, right? It's just black here and transparent all the way. So now I'm going to click on this to bring up the transparent, to add my gradient. Then I'll adjust other properties here. Click on this, select any property, any gradient you like, right? This is the ones I have set. I've saved them myself, so I can just pick any one. Which one do we pick now? Let me start with something simple. This gradient, this one has just two colors. Okay, so this is the color. These are the colors it has. Now, bear in mind that you can add more colors to this by clicking here. Once you move your mouse close to this place, it's going to turn to a hand. Just click it to add a stop, right? A node here, and then double click on it to change the color of the node. So you can add a red color here, and it's going to be there too. You can add as many as you want, depending on what you want to create. You'll be changing the colors like you want. So, like I said, do well to experiment with all of these. That's the only way you are going to master them. Okay, so that's how I created all these ones I created here. So, but for now, I'm just going to remove all of this, right, and just leave it at this simple one. Press OK. You can now adjust this, how it looks. For example, the opacity. Remember we had a black color in the background before we now did an overlay of gradient. So it's more like we have got this black, the gradient as a blanket over the black. So now when we begin to reduce the opacity, you'll start seeing that black color that was there. Now that is it. When it goes to 0, you see full black. When it comes up, you start seeing more of the bluish color until it gets to 100%, right? And all that. Now, this blend mode is how the color will interact with whatever that is that is underneath it. So in this case, a black color. So if you put an image inside the text, it will interact with that image. But in this case, we have the black color. So if you say overlay, it's going to overlay it. Now we have full black. So but for now, let's leave it at normal. You can change the style of this particular gradient. You can make it radial, right? It comes from the center. You can preview what is happening on your text here in a square. There's angle, right? Look at it. You can then, when you've done that, you can now adjust the angle of this. You can choose any one you want, right? All right. But you can now adjust this to look the way you want. Let's say we have something like this. I think this looks good. Yeah. Let's say we use this, and then you can adjust the angle. If this was in linear, you can be changing it to come to look different. So just observe. Notice that the blue is coming from here towards the light blue, and or you can scale it and big and small and all of that. So you can reverse it here and align it with layer. And this is aligned to this particular layer. If I remove this align to layer, the gradient is going to be spread through the whole page from the beginning of this document here of the canvas to the end of the canvas. That's why it's not showing lighter here. But if I say align to layer, it compresses it into this particular layer. You can also add other styles. I'm just going to add one more and then we move on. I'm going to add a stroke, right? I'm going to add a stroke of, okay, let me just make it 2. A stroke of white or gray, very light gray, right? Something like this. Yeah, very close to white. Let's just call it off white. I don't know if you can see it. Let me make it look at what we have. So, but I'm going to reduce this a little and then change the color back to what we wanted to use, and then add a drop shadow to it. Reduce the distance of the shadow and all of that, and look at what we have. So you can as well follow the settings here to create this kind of stuff and press OK. Now you can move it around. See what we have? This is cool. In the coming tutorials, we're going to go more in depth in layer styles for text and other elements of your design. But for now, we're going to stop it here. If you're thinking about how to get more fonts, right? Thinking about how to get fonts for your design, you see designers use beautiful fonts. You don't even know how they get it. Or if you get it, how do you now make it work on Photoshop? I had someone ask me that question some time ago, and I'm going to create a video just after this one to show you how to do that. So check my next video to find out how you can install fonts in Photoshop. It's just a very short video for you. So you can go ahead and watch it if you want to see how you can install fonts on your computer and make it work on Photoshop. So in this lesson, we have explained how to use the text tool to add and format text, adjust text layers, properties, and apply various effects and styles to make your text stand out. Now, with these skills, you'll be able to incorporate creative text elements into your design effectively. I thank you very much for following this tutorial. If you've not subscribed to this channel, click on the subscribe button and on the bell icon to be notified when I post my next video. Thank you very much for following this tutorial to the end. I'm going to see you in my next video. Alright, congratulations on making it to the end of the basic part of this tutorial. I'm excited that you made it to this point. Now you can go ahead and watch these videos. These are practical videos on how to make designs on Photoshop and follow step by step based on what you've learned. I'm going to show you how to create designs and work on images every step of the way. Go ahead and watch these videos before going into the intermediate part of the tutorials. I'm waiting for you on the other side of the intermediate tutorials. I'm hoping that by the help of these tutorials, you'll become better and better with Photoshop. See you in the intermediate tutorials.